I had a hard time picking which propaganda segment I wanted to show you guys. Cause, bro, essentially once Putin was coronated, there was this giant Western meltdown. Because we know they've been trying to foment color revolution in Russia for quite some time. The latest failure was Alexei Navalny, where even the intelligence agencies in the United States even found that Putin did not order the execution of Navalny. But we didn't need intelligence agencies to tell us that. I guess Cornball West did. Because Cornball West hates Alexei Navalny. We reported on this channel, even before that intelligence assessment, that Navalny died because of a blood clot. You know, very easily accessible information. Bree repeated, and I was very disappointed to hear her repeat the nonsense regarding Putin killing a Navalny. That's when they were having their PNC conversation with Cornel West. It was literally public knowledge that you can easily find that he died because of a blood clot. So, fam, if you think that Putin had Alexei Navalny executed, I need evidence of this incredible, groundbreaking technology that Russia has, a blood clot gun, the blood clot ray, I guess they have. But anyway, let me play this clip. Where you have Putin sworn in. It's his 5th term as president. And Zoe, I want you to chime in because this segment was hilarious. You just see pure cope from the West. So let's get into it. I'm gonna ask you to respond here soon.
Was sworn in as Russian president for a 5th time this morning. He won re-election in March, weeks after prominent opposition leader Alexei Navalny died in jail. This re-election was seen as unfair and undemocratic by Western governments. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams is in London with the very latest on this. Holly, it's always great to see you. So let's talk about this inauguration. What did he say, Putin?
Yeah, good morning, Vlad and Anne-Marie. Well, Vladimir Putin took the oath of office with his hand on Russia's constitution, vowing to, quote, respect and safeguard the rights and freedoms of man and citizen. That's despite being elected in what was viewed by many people as a rubber stamp election. Western observers did not think that it was free or fair.
So in the United States, they call you a fascist MAGA extremist if you deny election results in this country. And when you watch corporate media, denying election results is the worst thing you can possibly do. You can fund a fucking genocide. You can fund a whole ass genocide, but if you deny the results of an election, they call you a fascist Trump supporter. Meanwhile, that's what these same liberals do all the time in every other country. Every country that we dislike somehow has unfair elections. So I'm gonna play that clip again. I want you to respond to her claim, Zoya. Let's listen to her say it again. I'm gonna pass it to you.
And on Russia's constitution, vowing to, quote, respect and safeguard the rights and freedoms of man and citizen. That's despite being elected in what was viewed by many people as a rubber stamp election. Western observers did not think that it was free or fair. He supposedly won 87% of the vote.
Supposedly.
And despite the fact that many think that Vladimir Putin has systematically gone about undermining Russian democracy. Now, following the oath of office, there was a religious...
Zoya, my friend, do you agree or disagree with her assessment of Russian elections?
Oh, God, I'm tired. There were international observers. I doubt any election is more scrutinized by the international community. We even had Patrick, who's a journalist, who was an international observer at the elections and reported that everything was orderly and voluntarily and a lot more organized than the elections that we have here. People support Putin because when he came into office, Russia was on the verge of collapse and there was criminality and lawlessness running the country, massive corruption, mafia, and crime. And
they get at least 180 days. And Zoya explained before how there are a lot of loopholes where a lot of them actually get way more than 180 days. In America, and we're in my state of Missouri, everyone is forced to have a child. You're not allowed to make the choice for yourself. And then when you do have a child, you have no child care options. Your ass gotta get your ass right back to work. And people think that Russia is this some more brutal, horrific country. We live in such a horrific government. Americans and people in the UK have been beaten down to the point where they can't even comprehend a government that is working for the people. They can't even comprehend a government that have popular support. When you have the People's Republic of China, we have Xi Jinping who gives these addresses when he's talking about building the infrastructure. Whenever if you get a chance, like read the transcripts of the speeches that they will never show you on corporate news that Xi Jinping gives all the time. He gives these speeches where he talks about all the future projects that China has planned. He gave a speech recently that I saw on Twitter. That's why I got my sources from the anti-imperialist accounts, foreign journalists. We was talking about their new upcoming plan to boost high-speed rail. He like, bro, you guys think this high-speed rail shit we got now, right? It's good, bro. Bro, this shit we got right now is trash, bro. Look at this shit we got planned for 2030. He got his speech like, bro, this 2030 plan we have on high-speed rail gonna blow your guys' fucking mind. This new infrastructure project we got planned, bro, we got all these projects. We're gonna build up our ally, bro. His speeches, 95, and I'm imploring you guys to read them. 95% of Xi Jinping's speeches is how he's going to make life for Chinese people better. Compare that to speeches you hear in America, where Joe Biden is calling people protesting genocide anti-Semitic. They're giving speeches in America about why we should send billions of dollars to a genocidal apartheid state. They give speeches about why it's so important to defeat Putin in Ukraine. In the West, the speech is all about war, death, authoritarianism. We need to give more money to the police, suppress the people. Guys, start paying attention. This is the contrast that everyone else in the world sees. When Americans give speeches, they talk about death and create national unity, the likes that the West simply cannot replicate. Now, I'm sorry for the long rant, my friends, but these two reasons in a nutshell, if you can call it a nutshell, I don't think that was a nutshell, actually. Those two reasons is why you see these sky-high approval ratings. That's why you see 87% supporting Putin. And that's an analysis you would never hear on MSNBC, CNN. Hell, not even on a lot of independent media channels. They say, yeah, we think Russia authoritarian too. Yeah, we think Xi Jinping and China authoritarianism. RBN is one of the few channels that push back against this propaganda. Because I guess Americans, it's easy to sleep at night, I guess, if you convince yourself that other countries are worse than yours because you've given up on the concept of opposing our empire. So you have to tell yourself that Russia's worse. The Bernie Sanders, the Dr. Cornel Wests, they had to tell themselves that Russia is worse because it helped them sleep at night because they failed to resist our empire. So Zoya, that's my rant. I'm sorry. Anything else you want to add? I'm gonna read this receipt to give you a launching pad. I'll give you a launching pad here, because this is what you sent me earlier, and I've been seeing this develop, where you have Russian troops that are now doing drills with quote unquote tactical nuclear weapons, and even when Russia said that shit, I had to push back. There's no such thing as tactical nuclear weapons, guys. Fuck, we should never accept that premise. I don't care who says it. There's no such thing as tactical nuclear weapons. But Russia is doing these drills because of the unhinged statements that is made from UK officials. You had Emmanuel Macron in France that's saying, yo, if Ukraine is about to lose, which they are, we got to send troops in. And here's David Cameron that recently greenlit the use of UK missiles into Russian territories, which we shown before last year and a half ago, was considered off limits. They would scold the Ukrainians for even mentioning that. Now they just, oh yeah, you just launched missiles into Russia. So Zoe, you can, yeah, that's my launching pad for you. Feel free to take it anywhere you want. Anything you want to add? Because
Yeah, I mean, it's really outrageous, and how easily it's accepted now by liberals who used to be anti-war. But Russia's foreign ministry said that Cameron's remarks recognized that Britain was now de facto a part of the conflict, and contradicted an earlier assurance that long-range weapons given to Ukraine would not be used against Russia. This was all a guarantee by the West for over a year. And now they are so desperate that they are actually willing to cross Russia's red line. And I'm going to read Scott Ritter's response because I think he summarizes it nicely. He's responding to a general that's pushing for war. And he said, "For a general, you're pretty stupid. Russia set a red line, no NATO intervention in Ukraine. France threatens to deploy troops. The UK greenlights use of Storm Shadow for strategic strikes. Russia tells France and UK if they go forward, Russia will retaliate by hitting targets outside Ukraine. This would trigger Article 5. NATO would strike Russia. Russia would hit NATO hard. NATO hits Russian strategic targets. Russia nukes NATO. What part of this escalation ladder don't you comprehend? Russia doesn't bluff. Do you really want to commit suicide over Ukraine? Because after Russia nukes NATO comes general nuclear war, and we will all be dead." So that's a warning to these warmongers to have money stays here that the Pentagon can't account for. So it's a money-making scam, and these capitalists have terrorized the world for far too long. And now Russia and China are asserting themselves as world leaders. They are following UN guidelines. Officially, the people of Donbass were being ethnically cleansed and suffering from collective punishment, such as their government cutting off utilities like water and gas. They were being bombed. Children were being bombed for 8 years. And this region turned for help to an outside power, something America has used as a justification endless times. And that is in accordance with UN law. So the special military operation that people keep calling an invasion was actually in according to their own rules, because they're setting a standard, because Russia and China are going to be new world leaders. De-dollarization is happening. America's losing its grip. The West is losing colonies in Africa. The world is changing, and they're trying to propagandize to ignore what's happening all around us.
Well said as always, Zoya. I actually need to get back to the segment because the segment actually getting started. So let's watch some more of this segment because I'm interested in hearing response, because they actually get even more crazy if you believe it or not. So I'm actually gonna play from the beginning because I know it's been a while since I went on a few long rants. So I'm gonna let it play from the beginning. Take a quick little smoke break as it play, and I will be right back with my announcements. I'm gonna let a lot of this play as I take a quick break. I'll be right back, and then we can do our announcements. Okay, be right back.
Navalny died in jail. His re-election was seen as unfair and undemocratic by Western governments. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams is in London with the very latest on this. Holly, it's always great to see you. So let's talk about this inauguration. What did he say, Putin?
Yeah, good morning, Vlad and Anne-Marie. Well, Vladimir Putin took the oath of office with his hand on Russia's constitution, vowing to, quote, respect and safeguard the rights and freedoms of man and citizen. That's despite being elected in what was viewed by many people as a rubber stamp election. Western observers systematically gone about undermining Russian democracy. Now, following the oath of office, there was a religious service inside the Kremlin, during which time Putin was blessed. That's very much in keeping with the image that he's constructed in recent years. He's seemingly sought to depict his rule as somehow ordained by God, and his war in Ukraine as something of a holy war. The US and several other Western nations, including the UK, Canada, and Germany, did not send representatives to the inauguration.
So at this point, when he's finished his term, he will have been in charge of Russia, ruling Russia longer than Stalin. What does a fifth term look like for Putin?
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it? His first inauguration was back in the year 2000. And I don't know about you, but that seems like a very long time ago to me. If he serves out this current term, which is 6 years, it will make him the longest serving Russian leader since Catherine the Great.
Wow.
Back in the 18th century, the 1700s. That's almost 300 years ago. And as you just pointed out, he's faced some stiff competition since the time of Catherine the Great, including all of those Tsars in Imperial Russia and Joseph Stalin, who served as the leader of the USSR for nearly 30 years. I think viewed from the West, Putin's legacy will be very much defined by the war in Ukraine. I mean, he presumably thought that he was going to win that conflict very easily. It's believed that he was lied to by some of his closest advisors in a system where telling the truth can be pretty dangerous. Tens of thousands of Russians have died in Ukraine. In fact, by some estimates, well over 100,000. Russia is now isolated from the West, and Putin himself is under indictment by the International Criminal Court. I think the other aspect of his legacy, at least viewed from the West, will be Alexei Navalny. I mean, he was Putin's most significant opponent, his critic in chief. When he died.
Okay, guys, I did the best I could. Now you guys see why I have a hard time letting these videos play without stopping?
Dr. West would love this.
Oh yeah, Dr. West, he loves this shit, bro. So before I pass to you, Zoe, because I know you fucking fuming, so I'll let you take most of it. The only thing I'll take is I love how they always fearmonger. Oh my God, Putin's been in charge for so long because Russians support Putin. Guys, you guys know that Dianne Feinstein served into the Senate until she died? Joe Biden, our president, was senator for 40 years, then was vice president, and then became president. Joe Biden was in power for at least 45 years on the highest level. Mitch McConnell was the permanent oligarch of the Republican Party for decades. So in the United States, we have oligarchs where we cannot get rid of them because we live in a capitalist dictatorship. So in this capitalist dictatorship, you can predict who's going to win with around a 98% rate, 98% success rate. So the capitalists pick who's going to win the election every time before it even starts. So they choose these people who are going to be permanently installed in their seats. Like right now, progressives hate John Fetterman. Hey, I try to warn you guys about John Fetterman because if you think you're going to get rid of John Fetterman, it's not going to fucking happen. I see people like, let's primary John Fetterman. It's not going to happen because he's about to be funded by AIPAC. He's about to outraise everybody. He's never going to lose. He's never going to lose. We are stuck with oligarchs in the Senate who cannot lose. And they were talking about Putin. So I'm sorry, I that was crazy. I was fuming. I know you was too, Zoe. I won't pass it to you. I said I'll let you go off first, but I ended up going off. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Zoe. Anything else you want to add? I'm gonna let the rest of this unhinged clip finish. But I had to take a stop.
Let's let it finish because I just want to dismantle all of it.
Okay, yeah, well said, Zoe. So I'm gonna go back like 20, about a little bit here, and then I'll let you try and make it, bro. I already know you feel me. Actually, I'm gonna go back I'm gonna go back a few seconds here. Play all the way through as I finish my little smoke break.
I mean, he presumably thought that he was going to win that conflict very easily. It's believed that he was lied to by some of his closest advisors in a system where telling the truth can be pretty dangerous. Tens of thousands of Russians have died in Ukraine. In fact, by some estimates, well over 100,000. Russia is now isolated from the West, and Putin himself is under indictment by the International Criminal Court. I think the other aspect of his legacy, at least viewed from the West, will be Alexei Navalny. I mean, he was Putin's most significant opponent, his critic in chief. When he died earlier this year in a Russian penal colony, there were howls of criticism from the West. And today we heard from Alexei Navalny's widow, Yulia, who said, quote, "Our country is being led by a liar, a thief, and a murderer."
Every channel has done these segments, and they all just as crazy as the next. So
its president for another. Russia has just inaugurated its president for another 6-year term. From London with more. We talked about it in the lead up to the election in March. This was no surprise to anyone. What was the significance of Putin's inauguration today then, Claire?
Yeah, Amara, look, this was a ceremonial event, very choreographed. It sort of lends the trappings of credibility, obviously, to Vladimir Putin, who swept to power, certainly it's believed, outside of Russia in an election that was neither free nor fair. But inside Russia, look, nothing changes. If anything, there's a renewed sense of permanence around his rule. This, his fifth term, may not even be his last. He's eligible to run again in 6 years' time, should he decide to do that. But look, internationally, obviously, many diplomats did not attend.
We do not refuse dialogue with Western states. The choice is theirs. Do they intend to continue trying to restrain the development of Russia, continue the policy of aggression, continuous pressure on our country?
Why the hell are you talking like that?
Or look for
It's hilarious.
and peace.
Hold up. Sorry, guys. But why the fuck do they got this translator talking so fucking goofy? Putin doesn't talk like that. Am I reaching, or is that just another attempt at propaganda? Like, is that a reach?
Propaganda, dude. It's comical, and they're trying to make him sound like a cartoon villain when he's actually like very even tone and logical.
Yeah, look. So I'm playing part again, bro. Holy shit! Like, once again, let me know in the chat. Am I reaching with this analysis? But that's definitely propaganda. Where they make the person who is translating sound like a fucking goof. So people think the world leader is a goof. Maybe I might be overthinking it. Who knows? But let's continue.
We do not refuse dialogue with Western states. The choice is theirs. Do they intend to continue trying to restrain the development of Russia, continue the policy of aggression, continuous pressure on our country for years, or look for a path to cooperation and peace?
So obviously, when he says we do not refuse dialogue with the West, take that with a pinch of salt. He goes on to say that a conversation, even on security, is possible, but not from a position of strength. It has to be on equal ground. The translation is that he will only engage in dialogue with the West if they stop supporting Ukraine, which of course is not happening right now. But it's significant also that Putin sees one key lever that he can pull, and that is, of course, the nuclear threat. Just one day before this inauguration, Russia announcing that it is preparing military drills that would simulate the use of a battlefield nuclear weapon, a non-strategic nuclear weapon. This was in response, they said, to comments from David Cameron, the UK Foreign Secretary, and the French President Emmanuel Macron, suggesting that the West's aid for Ukraine could go even further than where it is right now. So you can see that this policy of confrontation, that nuclear threat, that will be a key challenge for the West as it approaches Putin now in his fifth term.
And Claire, we're hearing some reports of a possible assassination attempt against Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. What are you learning about that?
Yeah, this news is coming from the Ukrainian security services.
I think at this point they're done covering Putin. And I'm going to show you guys this, and I'll pass it to Zoe. I'll give you your chance to add anything to this if you want. But there's a reason why I do these propaganda segments. I was looking at the chat, bro. We find this shit to be goofy, my friends. Remember how Mediaite ranked us as the most far left, unreliable media outlet in the country, which we take great pride in? These institutions who we can't even watch their segments without laughing, thinking like, who the fuck is falling for that? Americans. Americans think they're independent thinkers, but they are not. I say over and over again, the United States is the most propagandized country in the world. I was saying that ever since I started. Now I see a lot of people repeat that because it's undeniable. And as we laugh at that, as the RBN, as our corner of society, laugh at this shit, you have boomers, you have white America watch this shit like, oh my God, Putin is evil. I'm like, oh, you gotta stop Putin. Americans' favorability rating of Russia sinks to a new low of 9%. Now you gotta see why we do these propaganda reports. More and more Americans see China as the enemy, not the police, Zoya, not our genocidal ally, quote unquote, in Israel. China is the enemy, my friends. So as we laugh and we joke around in these propaganda segments and we say, oh my God, we can't believe anyone will fall for that. We have Americans falling for it en masse. So Zoya, any last thoughts?
It's just amazing that they frame these countries as aggressors, as if Putin is, trying to do a coup in Mexico and get Mexico to start a rivalry with America. It is America that is always violating international order. And that has been considered. If you lived through Libya, if you lived through Iraq, like, how do you still trust this government? These are the same people who told you the weapons of mass destruction lie. I honestly thought that would permanently discredit them.
You would think.
You would think, but people have amnesia. So these same people who have sold you war countless times and then quietly retract and apologize and make these corrections, they are still lying to you. I mean, that is the consistent take. Do you think these people suddenly decided that they should start telling you the truth? And the Russophobia, of course, is at an all-time high because we have to pretend we're in a comic book and there's bad guys and good guys, but there aren't. No country is above criticism, not Russia, not China, not anyone. No country is perfect. Do you know any perfect country? I certainly haven't seen one. So I want people to understand I'm never going to say something that isn't factual or like fangirl over Putin, even though this is my country of origin. But America has so many problems and they are aggressors in the world historically that it's unbelievable that you think it's these other countries who only issue threats of retaliation. They only talk about nuclear weapon use or anything in retaliation. And no one's paying attention to in retaliation to what and to who. Because those are your real aggressors. And we see this consistency all over the globe. And all of these conflicts are interconnected because Israel has been selling security technology all over the world, including all over the Americas, including Latin America. They pride themselves on this mythology around the Iron Dome and how safe and secure they are. And this has all been very bad for business. And never forget business is a part of it. Never forget the money is a part of it. And these same people literally train the police, our police. The New York police has an office in Tel Aviv. That's a fact.
Yep.
So you have to make all of these connections, and you just can't without doing research outside of Western propaganda. So when I tell you international sources, I don't mean go to a UK source or France or Germany. Look outside of NATO. Look at sources from Africa, sources from China, sources from Russia. I mean, you're never going to get the full picture without examining everything. Oh, and I'm glad you're pulling that up.
Go off, my friend. Feel free. Go off. We about to wrap up the stream, so you might well get anything off your chest that you have, my friend.
So she's a perfect example because she was literally spying onto this lady, Rebecca Weiner, in the graphic, to be clear. She was literally spying on students and getting the police to crack down on protesters. And it turns out that she served time on the behalf of the NYPD in Tel Aviv. She's their liaison. So we see these ties all the time, and really there's so much debate. Does Israel control America? Does America control Israel? They're all in cahoots. These people have symbiotic relationships. They're all copying each other. And no, Israel didn't start this genocidal kind of approach. America was funded on genocide. Hitler, you can read about it in Hitler's American Model. That Hitler modeled a lot of his policies after how indigenous people and other minorities were treated in America. That was his inspiration. In the 1920s, you can also look it up on YouTube, we were having Nazi parades in Madison Square.
Yep.
So, know the history of this country. Just because people are aligning for common interests, we don't have to start choosing who's the worst evil. It's pointless. They're all working together. And on that point, the last point I really wanted to make before we wrap this up is that just like there's infiltrators in the protests and there's modern COINTELPRO. I forgot the term they have for it. They remarketed it, they rebranded, but they literally have a modern term for it. So expect infiltrators. Study all the leaders of past movements. There were always people internally betraying them, agents, provocateurs, people just leading them down the wrong path. And it's really important that we don't support protests uncritically to the point where we ignore history and start to safeguard against ways we've been sabotaged before. And the same thing goes for who you engage with online. Because I have seen a lot of people, just accounts that literally didn't exist before, came out of obscurity, build an entire massive following on the Russian SMO. And now the same thing is happening with the Palestinian cause. And the problem with that is that a lot of these people are, they like Soleimani and Khaleesi, they gained this massive following. And right now, Soleimani literally just did a segment, a podcast, a space with a real white nationalist, Nick Fuentes, who has said that no Christian or Muslim or atheist should be president of this country because it's a Christian country. He has talked about idolizing Hitler. He has talked about exterminating people, literally. He says it's all a joke, but I researched this guy, and no, he's not joking. He founded this whole following called Groypers, and Soleimani just aligned with him and is boosting him and is tying him into the Palestinian cause. But these people have real anti-Semitic sentiment, and they try to conflate Zionism and Judaism, which ignores the fact that most Zionists are Christians. They're evangelicals. So there's so many people who will co-opt, and especially when there's money to be made. But really watch out for who was talking about October 7th. Who was talking about Palestine before October 7th, like Nick, like plenty of people who have been in community for years and have been consistent on the cause, versus people that were defending Andrew Tate from sexual assault accusations and suddenly changed their branding because there was an opportunity. We have to have discipline, and this is why I always talk to people about organizing locally. You should know the people that you're in community with. You should build up trust, and the way to build up trust is by doing work in your communities through mutual aid, community gardens. There's infinite paths, and you might not be able to change the world from your position, but you can change your world. And if everybody is doing that, we can actually get organized in a serious way where we become a threat to power. Because no matter what's happening on the international stage, whether you're pro-Hamas, anti-Hamas, it doesn't matter for Hamas. Hamas is going to do what Hamas needs to do, whether you like them or not. We need to be fighting for our own liberation in this country. And of course, we should have solidarity with all liberation movements, but really they're counting on us to take on the power structures here. And that's what we should all unite on, and that's what we should be focused on. And never punch down at people with no power, whether they're propagandized or misled. Try to educate where you can, conserve your energy, and invest it where it's going to give you the most fruitfulness out of your community. But at the same time, don't do this ridiculous litmus test of whether someone's a Republican or a Democrat, because if we're rejecting the duopoly completely, then these labels are fabricated, and we need to start connecting with each other as people. We need to undo the harm that propaganda has done. We need to remind people what matters to all of us and come together before we lose all of our rights here in America.
So is love. So is life.